Just because I may present more femme doesn't mean that I'm any less they, them.
You can identify as they, them all you want. It doesn't change the fact that you are not a they, them. You're feminine. You are a woman. You are not they, them because they, them implies that you're more than one person. And you are not more than one person, regardless of how you feel. Hell, I could feel like a millionaire. Doesn't change the fact that I'm not. Also, college students explain why pronouns are important. Don't even get me started on that note.
Thing where you're eating a meal, but you're not really eating a meal. You're just kind of picking at food on the counter. My family and I were doing that one night, and I just kind of looked at them and said, hey guys, I'm non-binary. I don't have a gender.
Well, I don't get that. Usually I just sit down and eat like, the average person. But hey, that's your prerogative. Do whatever the hell you want to do. But I'm sure that when you told your, relatives that you were not binary, they kind of looked at you like you have three heads, because they're like, sure, whatever in the fuck that means. Moving on to far more important matters. Oh, by the way, North Korea might bomb us. Anyway, moving on.
In my opinion, gender is a universe. It is a broad spectrum of planets and stars and sky that truly cannot be contained into a binary.
First things first, this is a galaxy.
My pronouns are personally very important to me. Growing up, enculturated into kind of a system that really subscribes to toxic masculinity.
I will go the first person to describe to me exactly what is toxic masculinity. What exactly is so wrong about a man wanting to be masculine? It's Mother Nature, it's biology. If something against biology, well, that's fine and all. But there's nothing toxic about it. A man's natural reaction is to defend a woman. That's Mother Nature. That's part of evolution. That's how we got where we are now. You start denying evolution, you're just going to end up bringing us back to the Dark Ages. And I don't care how much you pretend like masculinity is a terrible thing. You're always going to have people that are alpha and people that are beta. It's always going to happen. It's a natural reaction of life. Hell, you even see it in school kids. You always have the one kid that's a boy, that's the jock, that's the quote-unquote most popular kid in class. Does that mean I necessarily agree with the situation? No, but it naturally occurs all the time. So, that being said, masculinity is not a toxic thing. And this guy acting like, oh, well, I'm prescribed to this, this world of natural toxic masculinity. Except in this world, you're told you can be whatever the fuck you want to be. Nobody cares. Shut the fuck up and move on with your life. Stop acting like who you identify with is, what you identify as your gender defines every single aspect of your life. You know what really defines you as a person? What your actions are. If you're a person that identifies as a non-binary Khajiit, but you manage to save 3 people from drowning, you still saved 3 people from drowning. Alright? Stop worrying about how you identify. Stop worrying about your identity politics and focus more on being a better person. Anyway, that's my piece on that. Moving on.
So when someone identifies with a pronoun, they're essentially taking their little piece of that broad universe and identifying with that. And so in using their correct pronouns, we're validating that, yes, you are right in your identity and you are important, and we're
not exactly 100% sure what you're going with here. Are you trying to say that, gender is comprised of millions upon billions of different genders, much in the way that a galaxy is comprised of millions upon billions of stars and planets? Or are you simply implying that there's a large amount of genders? Because, quite frankly, either way I could argue. But to the average person walking down the street, they're going to view you as either male or female. And that's just the way it is. I'm sorry. And if that hurts your delicate sensibilities, maybe you need to find something in life a little bit more important than just how you identify. Like, I don't know, pick up a hobby for Christ's sakes. Play a little guitar, it won't kill you.
Laverne Cox kind of famously said, misgendering a trans person is an act of violence. And it is.
You see, this is one of those situations where I have myself just scratching my head, because apparently these college students have never been in a real situation where they've actually experienced violence. I'm joking. I realize that they possibly have. I'm just saying that they seem to have a lack of awareness of what actual violence is. And I don't care who said that it's an act of violence. Hell, it could have been George Washington that said that misgendering a trans person is an act of violence. It still wouldn't be right. Misgendering is not an act of violence. You know what an act of violence is? Punching somebody in the face. That is an act of violence. Misgendering somebody, that's just words. And I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, my parents kind of instilled in me rather repetitively that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I mean, this is the kind of shit we teach toddlers, for God's sakes, and now we have college students that are technically full-grown adults that are trying to tell you that words do hurt. It's unbelievable, and you wonder why a majority of the population of the United States, and possibly England for that matter, look upon college students with such disdain. Because they do say things like, oh, well, misgendering me is an act of violence. No, it's not. Cupcake, get over it.
And so it is something that is entirely wrapped around our everyday lives. So just walking into a restaurant and hearing someone say she, like, will happen within 2 seconds of me entering, which doesn't happen about any of my other identities. They're not going to be like, oh, you straight person, you know, like that doesn't happen. But automatically someone will make assumptions about gender which translate into pronouns, which mean that I will hear over and over again people saying something about my identity which is false.
I don't know if they go over this in college, but there are a few certain things that humans do when they come in contact with another person. They assess that individual, and one of the things that they assess is that person's gender. And I'd really hate to burst your proverbial bubble, but you look like a woman. And most people are going to assume you identify, quote-unquote, as a female. And if you don't, and you want them to use a different pronoun, you can ask them to do so. However, there are certain people that are assholes like me that will tell you that, no, fuck off, and I just stop talking to you, because if somebody's going to go out of their way and, you know, make everything about their gender, yeah, I don't want anything to do with that person because I have much more important things to do with my life. Unlike you, apparently, who not only do you take everything else that happens in your life and apply it to your gender, but you have other, you know, identities that you have that, like, for example, you said straight. I hate to break it to you, but when people meet you, they don't know if you're straight. Hell, if I met you, I would assume that you were a lesbian. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. It's none of my business, and I don't care. The only part of me that does is the part of me that would want to date you, which, quite frankly, I wouldn't want to, but that's besides the point. My point is, stop fucking caring. There are so much other things in this world to worry about other than your goddamn gender. Use whatever bathroom you fucking identify with. I don't give a shit. And just move on with your life. Alright, getting all hung up on what people say, especially, is a very unhealthy way to live. I'm sure there are a million quotes I could pull from history of philosophers, and probably psychological scientists that would tell you that getting all hung up on what another person's opinion of you is, or another group of people's opinion of you is a very negative way to live your life. Anyway, I'm done being the life professor. Moving on.
A lot of people associate expression with identity, and sometimes that's not the case. You know, oftentimes I'm in situations where I'm not the most safe being able to express my gender identity, and in those cases, even in those instances where I'm wearing basketball shorts or sneakers, you can't take my gender identity away from me because that's mine and not yours.
That's cool, dude. I wouldn't want to take it away from you anyway, because quite frankly, I don't give a shit. And newsflash, neither does a majority of the rest of the goddamn world. Seriously, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point. Why do you people care so much? Is there literally nothing else in your life that you could be doing other than this? For fuck's sake. I feel like I need to pick up a new hobby now. This is driving me absolutely nuts. Anyway, but pointing out one of the things that he said is like, well, however I express myself may not necessarily be, you know, who I am. Just stop. You clearly are an effeminate male. I'm assuming you're at least gay. Maybe you're bi. Maybe you're not. I don't care. But I'm assuming you're male. And you see, talk about expression. Here's one of the expressions that people can do that is universal across the board for genders, and that's the way you express your body language. For example, I can tell that you're very effeminate. Your slouched shoulders, your diminutive posture. The earring is just the icing on top of the cake. But I could tell, without even hearing your voice even, albeit your voice is a very stereotypical gay man's voice, but I could tell outside of that you were probably a gay dude. Am I going to hold that against you? No. I just know that you're gay. Woohoo. Big fucking deal. See how I don't hold that above everything else? See, identity is not that important? Anyway, moving on.
So many different options for who you are and how to define that. So when someone chooses a personal pronoun that they identify with, using that pronoun is a form of respect and a form of validation that, yes, this is your rightful identity, and I will respect.
Oh my god, I can't believe I have to say this again. If you have to base your entire life and your own value of self-fulfillment off of other people validating your gender, there's something wrong with you. And it's probably not some weird form of gender that you seem to be having. Maybe it's mommy issues. Maybe it's daddy issues. Maybe you were never validated as a child. But here's the thing. If you cannot find validation in your own life from your own experiences, time to reassess your life. Moving on.
And not knowing how to combat it. It is constant, and it is such a prevalent part of our society that being misgendered happens countless times in a day, and that builds up really quickly, and it can really be difficult for a person to hear over and over again because it invalidates your identity over and over and over.
Alright, I can kind of see where you're coming from. You know, getting insulted on a regular basis can be a little bit tiresome, a little bit disappointing. But here's the thing. It's one thing to be insulted, in this case you would consider it an insult, on a regular basis, and to simply shrug it off and learn that that person that insults you is probably just a worthless piece of crap that has nothing better to do with his or her life other than to intentionally make you feel bad. Therefore, if you were a common sense individual, you would not communicate with that person anymore. You know, freedom of will and whatnot. No, you're the group of people that would rather start crying, sit in the corner and point a finger and say that big meanie said mean words about me. And you expect, much like if you were in elementary school, for the adults to come out and be like, oh, well, you know, you shouldn't be saying those things. Except in this case, instead of the adults coming over and giving little Johnny or little Jane a stern talking to, they throw them in prison. I really hate to burst all of your bubbles. Words are just words. There's a reason why we don't have laws against words being spoken. It's because it's subjective. What offends you might not offend somebody else. What offends me probably doesn't. I mean, hell, nothing really offends me. And majority of the things that I probably say offend everybody. So, at the end of the day, we're all free to do what we want and to say what we want to say, but we have to deal with the consequences in those actions, and the fact that the people that we offend generally don't want to talk to us, and those of us that are incredibly offensive, myself included, tend not to have a lot of personal friends in the real world. However, also with that being said, if you expect everybody to cater to your way of thinking, the friends that you do have and the relationships that you do build are not going to be built upon trust and honesty, because people are going to walk upon eggshells around you simply so that they don't offend you, and they're not going to say what they really feel. But anyway, that's my personal opinion. On the other side of it, misgendering somebody is not violence. It should never be a crime, and it should never be enforced through any way, shape, or form by a fine, or by the police, or by any form of government official, whether or not that be state or federal. And that'll do it. For this video, I do realize that I am running a little late. I have been feeling ill, and I've been working extensively long hours at work, so I've had little time between sleeping and working to edit the video. However, it's out on Wednesday, or it will be out on Wednesday. A day late, but $1 short, and I do realize I'm a little late to the party with this video, but I feel like I needed to say something. But anyway, I will see you guys either Thursday or Friday, depends on my work schedule. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and or night. See you later.